Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair. That's better get used to it anyway.
No, man, you're supposed to hold up as possible.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to ease my way in. It's not gonna have to.
No, man. Yeah,
That was yeah, exactly.
See the buggy one? No. Oh yeah. No, I just sent you all just a few minutes ago about some blog that Josh found. I'm not an investor found it or what? Like, you guys took this? No, available is like a little bit. What does it do with that? We'll do is tonight. We enter in some weirdly formatted
She doesn't take me seriously.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
I see it.
Oh, wow, that's fun.
Now the main content. It'll be like
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Good. Wonderful. For those who don't know me, my name is Jill Felska. I actually run the careers program globally for Bootcamp, but I call Chicago home because we're the best campus there is. And those of you who've been here before, you're probably noticing it's a little bit empty in here. Our internet went down completely yesterday, like no internet, which when you're a coding school is a slight problem. So all of our students who are usually testing yesterday are testing today right now. which is why we're a little bit smaller. But we are here to graduate the fantastic squirrels. Yay! So, quick fun fact about the squirrels. The very first cohort that ever came through Bootcamp here in Chicago were the squirrels back in 2012. And then we've had a second round of squirrels, which was in 2013. And then now these are the third round of squirrels, which are fourth squirrels or third or fourth? Third squirrels, I am right, okay. And Eric here in the front row, who's gonna wave? This is Eric. Eric was part of the very first cohort that ever came through here. He was a squirrel back in 2012. So now he's back as an employer, which is kind of cool, right? Yeah, so we've come very full circle this morning. For those of you who are here visiting, Bootcamp, as I'm sure you've heard because you've been involved in these people's lives, is a 19-week program. They've got 9 weeks before they come to the space. They've got 9 to 15 weeks in the space, and then they've got a week of Career Week, which will actually go through next week. But today we are celebrating the final projects that they've all put together. And before I tell you a little bit about that, I want to introduce Nate, who is actually their cohort lead, and saw these guys through the entire process. Nate, guys.
Cool. So I am really, really happy to be able to just send off the squirrels today. They've put, in an incredible amount of work over the last 9 weeks. Some of them a little more than that to make it through this really, really intense program. So I'm the cohort lead, which means I got to start with them on day one, and I got to spend every day with them throughout the program and get to be here for their graduation. So, I feel really privileged because I've seen the progress they've made, the growth they've made over the past 9 weeks. I've seen them go from being really, sort of timid, unsure of themselves. Can I do this? Walking in, seeing their, someone else's final presentations, saying there's no way we can build something like that. That's impossible. But you're going to see what they have to show you, and it's pretty amazing. And it's that kind of growth that's what employers are looking for. Those are the kind of people you want to work with, people who are willing to dive in and stretch themselves. And these squirrels definitely did that. So super proud of them and really, really happy and wish them a ton of success as they leave here. And I hope they all come back. I think we've got a couple, definitely a number who are going to be coming back and be some great mentors for future students at DBC, which is an awesome thing for us and for all those future students because they're going to gain from their perspective and their experiences. And I really hope to see some of you back in the space. All right, well, let's.
Thanks, Nate. So, like Nate said, just to give you guys a little bit of context, the projects that they're going to show you guys today, they've actually pitched themselves and then built in the last 8 days. So this isn't something that they worked on the entire time they were here. This is something that they've been cramming and jamming on for like the last 8 days. Even yesterday when we had no internet and they had to disperse and figure things out. And then those of you who come regularly as employers, I just want to let you know we're changing things up a little bit. So if you haven't been here in the last couple graduations, we're actually going to let them present first. We're going to take a small break afterwards, like 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to let the families stay if they want or go if they want, and we'll do the employer introductions and the networking with the students. So without further ado, I give you guys the squirrels. Good luck, guys.
You're going to use the cable?
Yeah, just
I'll just see if I can.
projectors are so much fun.
All right.
Hooray!
Hello, everyone. We are Team Accountabil, an open source web app that makes it fast and simple for a user to find their state representative and senator and then find campaign contribution for them. My name is Gabriella. I was project lead and I worked full stack.
My name is Rachel. I worked full stack with a focus on the graphs in V3.
My name is Shiraz, and I worked on full stack with a focus on web deployment.
My name is Elliot. I worked on full stack with focus on the backend and the database.
And my name is Ian. I worked full stack with a focus on front-end styling and JavaScript.
Let's say I'm a person that moves around a lot and I recently just moved to the area. I don't know who my state representatives are right now, so I'm just going to go here on this website, put in my zip code, and then simply like that, I will find a list of my 2 senators and state representative. And then let's say I wanted to find out some more information about Senator Kerr. I can click on his name, and over here I can see his top contributions by sector. If I hover over, I can see some more detailed information about each sector. I can also toggle on and off the certain sectors to see how they influence the total and also how they compare to each other. Now let's say I'm interested to know who are his top contributors. I can click on top contributors and see a list of the top 10 companies that contributed to Senator Kerr. To put things in perspective, I also want to know what is the senator up to? What is he doing? So I can click on sponsored legislation, which will pull up a list of his current sponsored bills. And if I wanted to get even more information, I can click on that link and it will take me to Open Congress. They'll have all the information that I need.
So as someone that's spent a lot of time at DVC in the last 9 weeks, we've been kind of sheltered from politics. So as a friend was telling me recently about a real estate opportunity in Texas, and he kept mentioning that this Representative Johnson was doing good things in the area and there's a lot of activity going on. So as a user of Accountabil, I knew that I could go to the website, put in the name Johnson, and immediately see that this representative is here, and we can take a look at the information in a easy to digest fashion. So taking a look at the contributor types, it was rather interesting for me to see that in the area, the individuals are just about 2/3 of the amount of the aggregate PAC contribution. So the political action committees hold a little bit more power, but the individuals do have quite a say in that area. And that was interesting to see from the graph. So taking a look at the top contributions by industry, I wanted to drill down a little bit into that data and see just how much of a sway the real estate contributions are having with this area. And looking at the graph, I can see that, oh, it's a fairly significant amount of the overall contributions. And I was able to get this information rather quickly with just a few clicks and able to read through it and understand what was going on.
So planning was a fairly integral part of our process in the beginning here. So we all entered this project as friends. This is us day one. We wanted to leave as friends as well. So very first day, we just spent most of that day just setting some shared expectations, like when to come in the morning, when to leave each night. Though we were treating each day as a sprint, we were treating the entire process as a marathon. Additionally, we worked together to create our own wireframes that very day. And we set some project goals so we all knew where we would be headed. To that end, we used the Taiga project management system. We used the Kanbans to keep track of our progress and user stories, and we used the wikis to help share research with one another. We also adopted agile principles throughout the process. We sought feedback out religiously. The Fiddler Craps will note a lot of their feedback made it into our final project. And then we also held frequent stand-ups to make sure we were keeping in touch with one another.
So throughout the course of this project, we used a number of technologies, as many do. But the four that really became foundational for this app were Backbone, Postgres with HStore, and D3. We used Backbone for our front-end JavaScript templating, which allowed our site to essentially operate as a single page, rendering up the views as you see them versus reloading a page every time. However, we realized with the help of Nate that this made navigating back and forth between search results fairly difficult. So we implemented the routing feature through Backbone and mimicked URLs despite staying on a single page. So a user can now bounce between their search results and the actual representative or sender's page just by using the back and forward buttons. Additionally, we used Postgres with HStore as our database. And there's actually a bit of a funny story behind this. We initially just wanted to download all of the data, the politician data, the contribution data, straight from Open Congress. And as you can imagine, that is a lot of data, roughly 15 gigabytes of pure text. And there was no way we could possibly host that for free. So we started looking around for alternatives and came across the Sunlight Foundation API, which is a fast and friendly API that allowed us to get all of the contribution information we needed and then host only the politician information on our side through our database. And the specific reason we chose HStore for this is because it gives us a relational setup with the document set compatibility for the sometimes inconsistent nature of political data.
So once we had the data, we still needed to actually be able to present it. A lot of sites that show similar data have a lot of it. It's very confusing, it's very complicated, it's very messy, and a lot of times it's really boring. So we decided to look into D3, which is a graph. It's a JavaScript library that creates the graphs that you saw in the demo. It was really exactly what we wanted. It made it very good to look at. It was very interactive. It had a lot of different features that we could implement. Unfortunately for us, while the graphs themselves are very pretty, the code behind them is not so much. It's very messy, it's very complicated, and there's a ton of it. It was quite a learning curve once we actually got into making it. At one point on the donut graphs, I actually had infinity% on all of the things. So it definitely took a while for us to get used to how it actually worked. However, it was all worth it. Once we finally actually made it work the way we wanted to, it was really a sense of accomplishment, and it showed the data exactly the way we wanted to, which was awesome.
Team Accountabil, thanks you for your time, and is now open for questions.
What was the hardest problem that you guys came up against building this? And how did you
I would say the hardest problem was actually just the sheer amount of data. It was, as I said, it was 15 gigabytes of just pure text from CSV files we downloaded. And I mean, we spent about a good day trying to figure out how best to make this data digestible by the user. And because, I mean, apps like this do exist, but they're not particularly user-friendly. They're just sort of a bombardment of just information. So yeah, I think our hardest part was just making the data available and easy.
Any questions?
So if you had another week, what would you want? What's like the feature you'd reach for next?
Well, we do have two things that we ended up iceboxing because of time constraints. We wanted to implement a search by company feature. So, you know, you heard about a company and you wanted to see who they're contributing to. And then also, I'm blanking out on the second one. Oh yeah, we wanted to make it easy for a user to keep tags on a politician. So basically, like sign up to receive updates about that politician's votes, or yeah, basically.
Additionally, we also got Omni authorization with Twitter. We mostly got it working. We just couldn't get it to play nicely with Backbone. And so it just kind of got put in the icebox, unfortunately.
I guess one more? All right, one more.
How long have you guys been working with Backbone? When did you start figuring that out?
I was gonna estimate 2 weeks ago is I think when they gave us lecture on Backbone.
I think we saw it for the first time 2 weeks ago.
So we probably used it a total of 9 days.
Good answer. Good
All
job.
right.
My name is Andrew. I'm a restaurant owner, and Friday and Saturday nights, my restaurant is packed. But Monday through Thursday, it looks like this.
Hi, my name is Jane, and I live in Chicago. I like eating out, but it gets really expensive. I want to do it on a budget.
Hi, I'm Matthew, and we are Meal Ticket. Meal Ticket is an e-commerce platform that connects empty restaurants like Andrew's to hungry patrons like Jane.
My name is Jane, and I worked on the Yelp API and the user experience.
My name is Matthew, and I was the project lead.
My name is Andrew, and I worked on the mapping.
My name is Eddie, and I work with backend.
We'll now demo for you how Meal Ticket connects Andrew to Jane.
So the other day, I was talking to my good friend Eddie, and he suggested this great app that some really nice people made called Meal Ticket. So I logged on. I typed in the name of my restaurant and the city that I'm in. And all of my information popped up. I claimed my business, and the form filled in itself, just like that. I filled out my email and my secure password, and I was on my way. Next, I wanted to create a promotion. I know that St. Patty's Day is coming up, so I wanted to get people in the door early. These great toolbars allow me to customize my promotion based on my needs. As a small business owner, I'm always looking out for the return on investment on my promotions. And I want to make sure by the end of the night, I'm not ending up in the red.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through my experience using Meal Ticket. So I'm at work and I'm leaving with 3 of my coworkers, and we want to find a cheap place to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and open Meal Ticket on my phone. Just a second. All right, so as you can see right away, I see all the restaurants around me that are offering promotion. Let's go ahead and check out Reverie. Great. Sweet, so right away I can see all the Yelp reviews. It's got some really great reviews. And more importantly, it's offering a 25% discount. I love it. Let's check it out. Okay, it's really easy to read. I'm doing this all on my phone. I'm on the go. For a group of 4, we get a 20% discount. That's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and purchase that. Okay, all of this is on my phone. It's so easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and submit my purchase. Yeah, this is like really easy to use. I'm on the go, and yeah, I got a great deal. Okay, great. So I can see all the pertinent information for my purchase,
But more importantly, I just got a text message. It has all the information about my meal ticket. I don't have to dig through my inbox to find this. I have it in my phone and on my hand. I got a great deal. It was so easy to use. I love it.
So our first challenge was we needed to gather restaurant information to make a busy restaurant owner like Andrew make his life easier. So we used the Yelp API to gather all information and give it to a form to make that all happen quickly. Next, we needed to present that information in an easy manner to a patron like Jane, so she can find restaurant information relevant to your cuisine, budget, and location. We used the Mapback API to accomplish this. Matthew?
We also were concerned with a patron's credit card security. It's a big issue these days. You see credit fraud all over the place. So it's a lot of work to manage that. We looked to Stripe, which is an industry standard for processing payments. Doesn't even hit our server. The credit card number never even touches our server, which is great. It encapsulates that. The Toyo. We wanted to provide real-time, instant feedback to a patron when they make a purchase. Normally, this would be done in a native application by a push notification, but we only had 8 days. So we wanted to take a mobile-first approach, insert some Twilio SMS API in there, fires off a message right when the purchase is created, providing that instantaneous feedback. Now, we're going to check back in with Andrew and Jane and see how they connect using Meal Ticket.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, I have a meal ticket.
Great, what's your confirmation number?
It's 05CDD8.
Jane?
Yep.
Your table's waiting.
Thanks.
Now, finally, we want to give a special thank you to Ali Flucky for her amazing assistance and guidance through the design process of our UI and UX. So thank you, Ali.
Thanks. That is Meal Ticket, and we will now take your questions. Yes.
I'm wondering how you actually made it mobile. Did you use phone gap in any way?
No, that was one of the things that we had discussed early on in the project. And you, like, when you're brainstorming, all these things come out. We're going to learn Swift in 8 days. No. Our fearless leader, Nate, actually introduced us to Cordova on the final day before project. And so it was something that we were like, oh my God, this is great, because basically a single web page, and you're just using JavaScript templates to render. We didn't want, that said, we still didn't want to jump into that. We are using Backbone in this to render a lot of views. And it could have been, it just was another technology that it was like, let's do what we want to do and do it well. But yeah, it's using Bootstrap, the framework.
Okay, so this is just a web application?
It's a web app,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, and we're using viewports to target specific mobile sizes.
Now, is it mainly JavaScript or Backbone, or is there like a server side?
So yeah, there's a whole API that we built out, and Jane can talk a little more about the use of like how we get our Yelp data and how we've incorporated that to Backbone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a really big challenge for us. Was we were so optimistic about Yelp. Everybody's so familiar with it, and we really wanted to integrate that. But it gives us so much data, and we wanted to parse it, especially auto-populating the form. And so we definitely turned to Backbone to render those templates. And it was a challenge, but it was really, really exciting when we got it.
All the API calls are done through our like internal API.
Yeah.
We're calling Yelp API from our server.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Ruby?
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
Right,
everything's
that
built on
exposed
Rails.
Rails.
Exactly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, there's a great Yelp gem. Yelp is pretty difficult, we found out. We bashed our head up against the wall many times. They're very also stringent with the way that they let you use their data. So we found like a pretty cool workaround, which is using that data to make the sign-up process easier, also including the user as the third party that is confirming that that is their identity, versus just stripping data from Yelp.
What was the process like going you had something designed for the desktop and then kind of rework things to fit on a mobile device? What was that process like?
Jane can really talk to that.
Yeah, we worked really closely with Allie. She was a really great resource. Like we said, we had a lot of high hopes and ambitions for making this Cordova app. But I think it was really amazing how we were able to make everything really responsive. So a part of our demo is done on the computer, but we initially we're thinking about doing it on a tablet, and it looks beautiful in every format because it's responsive everywhere. So yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
There are great online tools for learning new things. However, they're missing something. InSession bridges the gap between those who are seeking knowledge and those who have it.
Meet John. John is a beginning programmer, and he's been learning Ruby for the past 2 months. He's found that it's kind of a steep learning curve with programming. It takes a little while to learn it, especially alone. So luckily, he's heard of this great new website called InSession, and he signs up immediately. Over here, you can see his profile. It has his dashing features on this avatar, as well as some of the information that you would see if you're a user on the website, clicking on his profile. John's kind of had a rough day today. He's trying to figure out what an array is in Ruby. So he uses our functionality to see if anybody has posted this question before and what the response would be. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there are any responses yet about this question. But not to despair, there's actually a functionality that he can use to post this question himself on our message board. So he goes to the questions and he asks, what is an array in Ruby? This he does in order to get a response from someone more experienced to come to his rescue.
Hold on one second. Oh.
I think it's because it's so hot in this room. It's everybody else. Like my shoes are slippery. So this is the message board right here, and this is where John would post his question. He's asking, what is an array? Something I searched for so many times, but have figured out now. Okay, so great. There's his question populated, and he's good to go.
Dan is an experienced programmer of 10 years who enjoys mentoring as well as learning new things. Today, he's going to go ahead and see if there are any questions that he can answer. Looks like he has a solution for John's question, and he's going to go ahead and answer it.
I think something that all of us have experienced with learning something new is that it's not just using Stack Overflow and seeing the answers or getting something on Google. Like, that's informative, but there's also the human component that comes with it. In order to further your learning, you need that human interaction and something to push you along to keep you going. This is why within InSession, we wanted to have meetups, suggested meetups. And in this case, we wanted them based on the user's questions. So what is an array? It's kind of a question that you would ask when you're starting out. So there's a meetup actually called Ruby for Newbies. It looks pretty good. So in going through it, it looks like there's a description of the meetup. It looks like it's on March 12th. That's perfect. John actually has nothing going on that day, so he's good to go. And there's a location called Galewood, but he's never been there before, so he's going to see where that's located. Great. So he sees the pin there, and it looks like those are the meetups available, and it's about a block away from his house, which he's kind of lazy, but he thinks he can manage it. So he joins the meetup, and he's good to go and get some help from real people.
Dan is mentoring an upcoming meetup, and so he's going to go ahead and check and see if there are any new members. Looks like there are some new members here, and John has joined, so he's going to go ahead and message John and welcome John to the group.
Yeah, and so this would be a chat feature, so then they're able to interact with each other, maybe ask questions that they don't necessarily want to post on the message board, or just start that connection with each other. So he messages him. It says, "Hey John, welcome," with lots of exclamation points, as we do. There we go. Great.
I'm Matthew DeCarlo, team lead, and I worked with John on APIs.
My name's John Schultz. I worked on the APIs, Elasticsearch, and on the maps with Dan.
I'm Dan. I worked on the back end of Mapbox, and the front end was Sarah.
And I'm Sarah Ng, and I worked on the front end, and I did database management.
So when we started on this project, we wanted to experiment with MongoDB and Meteor. So Meteor kind of requires Mongo in many ways. We researched other options, but we always ended up back at Mongo. We were excited about this in a way, though, because it gave us an opportunity to learn about a completely different type of database. As far as Meteor is concerned, we were excited about working with Meteor because it's an exciting and young framework, and we knew that we could do the front end and the back end in JavaScript, which we thought would allow us to maybe deploy a little bit faster.
So as Dan mentioned, we took that opportunity to learn these new technologies, and we actually spent a day and a half just going really hard and spiking on these. But part of doing a project, especially for 8 days, is that you constantly need to evaluate and see what brings most value to our project. So we decided to go with something that was tried and true, and we had lots of success with before. So we went with the Ruby on Rails framework and a Postgres database.
Since we were using the Rails framework and had the Ruby Gems library accessible to us, we wanted to connect our users via the courses that they have signed up for, as well as questions that they've asked on InSession. So we did this with Elasticsearch. Because of its fuzzy search capability and its weighted fields, we were able to give relevant results to our users. Now that the users are connected to each other, we wanted them to be able to interact and to collaborate, figure out where they were going to meet, what they were going to do, what the details were. For that, we used Faye. Faye allowed for persistent messaging as well as actual live chat on the system, and also kept their conversations private. So when you're trying to tame a beast like the Coursera or Khan Academy APIs, it is a tricky process. And to do that, we used OmniAuth. OmniAuth allowed us to have authentication as well as authorization so that we could get the data that we needed from them about our users. It also allowed me the opportunity to expand my vocabulary with such exciting phrases as eating your own dog food.
So if we're allowing our users to find meetups near them, they may want access to a map so they can see that. So we use Mapbox with CoffeeScript. And many of you may know this is an open source alternative to Google Maps, which excited us. It's extremely customizable. And it also has the geocoder implementation where we could pull data and then turn it into GeoJSON files and then dynamically place pins on the map.
And we use Taiga as a group management application. Its beautiful interface was easy to learn, even though it was in beta. And we were able to keep track with the wikis on all of the new technologies.
Class is now in session. Any questions?
No, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was wondering, it seems that the mentors are very essential in the process. You might get a lot of like a student to mentor there. Is there any way that you've thought of to, what do you say, to reward them using points or badge system?
Money.
That potentially was something that we were going to implement, but because of time constraints, the basic functionality was really important, and we wanted to make sure that we had that really solid. And we also, partially because of the philosophies at Dev Bootcamp, believe that mentoring new students or new people to any area is rewarding in and of itself. And all of us do that just because we like it. And we've hoped that those would be the people that we would attract to the site. Anyone else? Yep.
So what's happening with the search?
Elasticsearch. So the way Elasticsearch works is it takes your query, it strips out all of the common articles, the other things called stop words, things like about that are going to show up in a lot of queries. So you and all the punctuation, and it leaves you with just the important, relevant words. It then takes those words and searches them against its own database, the Elasticsearch database that we have running here in the background too. And it returns results only based on those words.
What features are you using the search?
Oh, sorry. So we're using the search for anytime somebody asks a question or when we are looking to match up meetups. So if you're asking a question, it'll return results that are relevant to your question. That seemed like the easiest, obvious application of it. But it also is the way that we're handling the meetups. So meetups are suggested to you based on questions that you've asked previously. So it takes that question you asked, strips out all the unnecessary pieces, matches it up against, or compares it to all of the meetups that are available, and then suggests things to you that seem to apply to your question.
And I think this also just is a unique feature because it provides you with help when you don't necessarily know how to ask for it or where to look. So you just ask a question and you get this whole new resource of people. So I think that really sets aside InSession.
Thank you.
I'll get out of the way.
All right, so let's say, imagine yourself like, or maybe you're already in this position at one time in your life. You were with a bunch of your friends and you want to play a game with a deck of cards. Unfortunately, nobody dropped $5 to buy a physical deck of cards, but you all like dropped $100 or $1,000 for like phones, laptops, tablets, all these fancy things. So this is where our app comes in. Stacks on a Deck allows you to enter a room with all your friends with a special key, and this gives you a ability to have a free-flowing deck of 52 cards and play pretty much whatever game you would like. So my name is Kevin Yu. I'm the team lead. I work full stack with all these wonderful people.
I'm John. I worked mostly on sockets and backbone with everybody.
I'm Flora Garcia, and I worked on Backbone with basically everyone and some sockets with John and Kevin.
My name is Brian, and I worked on the Redis database and CSS with Aaron, and I worked on Backbone with everyone else.
I'm Eric Harris, and I worked on sockets and CSS with Brian, and worked on CSS and Redis with Brian, and worked on sockets with Kevin.
Yeah. So very early on in our process, we realized we had a lot to figure out. We were dealing with something we hadn't really tackled before. We knew sockets were going to be part of it, and then we wouldn't be serving like a lot of HTTP pages. Our app was probably just going to be one page. So we did some research, and in the end, we decided to spike on two things. We spiked on a socket library called Event Machine for Ruby, and a socket library called Socket.io for Node. And we both split off and built chat apps with our spike, and we came back and had a really tough decision. we were really comfortable in Ruby land. We'd been doing it for 7 weeks. We learned Ruby. We learned how to code in Ruby. We wrote tons of Ruby. But we thought that Socket.io with Node would play nicer with our client-side JavaScript, and it would allow us to serve HTTP and sockets from the same server. So we derailed, and we went
Another decision that led us out of Ruby land in the comfort zone was about our database. We'd been working for the past 7 weeks again with Postgres and Ruby, but we wanted something that was going to run a little bit faster, and the concept of a deck of cards lends itself really nicely to a set in Redis. So that, as well as performance, helped inform our decision, and we ended up going with Redis for our database. This ended up to be an entirely new area for us. We've been working with relational databases, and Redis has only sets and hashes, so that proved to be a challenge, but after struggling through it for 2 days, we ended up to make it work, and it turned out really well for us.
So after we had the backend set up, we really needed to pick a front-end framework to use. So like other groups have said, we had about 1 lecture on Backbone, so that was kind of pushed us towards Backbone. We also thought it was easily integratable with sockets, so once we decided on Backbone, we kind of kicked forward there, and we really needed structure in our front end because, like John said, we were only going to be using an app basically on 1 page, and we're competing with an actual deck of cards. So in real time, I pass a card to Kevin, he gets it immediately. That's how we wanted this to work. So we couldn't be sending the user to a new page every time I pass a card to Kevin. So having an MVC framework on the front end was really useful because our views could listen to sockets or clicks and re-render as necessary.
Yeah, so one of the main challenges that we faced early on was what kind of features we wanted to implement. With a physical deck of cards, we could have done we can do so many things, like pass like a certain amount of cards to one person, like pass cards to the table, like as whatever we want. I mean, you can come up with endless possibilities. But we decided with such a short time frame that we wanted to have just the basic functionality of just passing cards to person, passing a single card to the table, drawing a random card from the deck, and a couple more features that we'll show you in just a few moments.
And one of the other challenges we faced was how the user interface was going to look. So the whole vision of this app is that you're sitting down with your friends, you've got your phones out and you're playing with cards. We needed it to be real mobile friendly. We were looking at wireframes and that kind of thing. We were trying to choose what options to use. And that was a big decision factor in how we were going to implement that. So as you can see here, we had some pretty big cards in our original plan, and it didn't work out very well with the views. We had to really scale down our cards so it would work out well. Here you see a nice, like, 2,000-year looking website. We were never actually going to use that color scheme, but kind of helped us show. But as you can see, it was really challenging. Seeing this on a mobile screen, it wasn't going to work. So we had to scale down the cards. We had to basically redo how we were going to do it on mobile. We ended up using a nav bar on the side to make it look like a website, but it also expanded the table view and the hand view to give us more screen real estate.
All right, so while we set up for our demo, one of the main things that we want to concentrate and like our motto for our map was that we didn't want this app to be just a card game. We want it to represent all card games. So let's see, we're gonna join a game. Flory is already in a room called High DBC. So just enter here. All right, so here's our holding page. We see all the players in there. Flory's already in there. I just joined. And one of the main things that we wanted to implement was that for many card games, we have a starting hand size. So you can pick and choose, we want to start out with 5, we want to start out with 6, and so on and so forth. And we have this other fancy feature that was coming up. The table.
You want to use your phone?
I'll just show it on the device. It's fine.
Okay. So we're gonna have a table join on IDBC. So we can show in a few moments.
Sorry, we were supposed to demo on an iPad, and it turns out that you can't Chromecast on that.
The feature that we're trying to get set up right now is like a common area table room. So we wanted to make this a really social app so that like everybody in the room would have a common space to interact with. And since the screen real estate on a mobile phone is really limited, we wanted to be able to project cards onto a table view. And we were able to get it set up so that on an iPad or on a phone, you can project those cards and then you can dynamically move them to whoever is using just to wherever they want to be on that screen.
We'll go ahead with that.
Right. Yeah, so apparently it's not working for some reason. But we're going to start out with a game. So we're going to start with a handing size of 5. So this is pretty much the screen that you're going to see for the rest of the game. So as you can see on the bottom, we have our hand right there. Our table is going to be up on the top, and you have all the options of what for the table in the hand. So if you want to select a card, you just tap on it. It highlights. If you want to see that card, you just double tap it, and you flip it over. If you want to see all the cards, you can do a flick on the cards, and it'll show all the cards right there. So let's say I want to pass a 7 of spades to the table. So it's highlighted. I'll just hit the play, and then now it's over up on the table. So I can flip it over, and then now you can see that 7 of spades is up there. If we had the table, we would see it over on the table, and it's also shown up on Flori's screen. So, Flori, why don't you take that card, and how about you just give me, I don't know, just a random card.
All right, so I'm going to take this card. Take card. And then I'm going to pass you a Queen of Hearts.
All right, and we also have this notification of Flori passing me a card, and then now we can check this card. So now we see we have the Queen of Hearts. So I mean, we have all these functionalities of a basic card game, such as we can draw a card right over here. We have a 7 of clubs. Keep drawing; it does the overlap. We can draw cards to the table. We can do also the flick functionality on the table, and then we can take all cards from the table. Just flip. Will also reverse them. So yeah, this gives us all the capabilities of a basic deck of cards, like how we want to emphasize at the very beginning of our development process. We want this not to just be a card game, but to represent all card games.
So you might also notice it would be hard to tell whose cards are on the table. That's why we implemented the second view. It allows you to move the cards around. So if you're sitting around a table, you can put my cards. Table, you put my cards here, John's cards over there. So it would be really easy to understand whose cards were played to the table.
For your time, we're open for questions. Yeah, we would have loved to have more gestures. We really liked how we could implement a flick option and double tap option. If anything, we could have implemented flick to a certain user. It's just one smooth motion. Unfortunately, we just stuck to clicking a card, hitting the passive card player, and then a drop down of their names come up, and then just click to that and just sends it right to them. But yeah, we had a bunch of features that we wanted to do.
One of the challenges with that is, we wanted to implement draggability, and we tried to get draggable, but we actually have draggable working on the table that you didn't see. If you want to check it out, it's pretty cool, but it doesn't translate to the devices because communicating over sockets like coordinates for where the card should be on the table is really complicated, and we couldn't handle it in 8 days.
What was the best and hardest part about working with Accountabil?
Standards. Oh man.
hardest?
Well, we weren't super familiar with Node, so sometimes we were like not sure where our errors were coming from. And then it turns out that Socket.io did a complete rewrite at 1.0, and some of the documentation that we were finding, especially on Stack Overflow, is from 0.9. So it was kind of hard to work with, but the opposite, the other choice would have been Ruby Event Machine, and the documentation was horrible. So.
Talk a bit more about Redis and why Redis was a good fit for this, or do you think it was a good fit after using it?
Yeah, I think Redis worked really well. One of the main ideas behind that was storing a deck. We didn't really need to persist any sort of information past a single game. So we were able to set timeouts on our users and our deck, so that keeps our database pretty light. And also the whole concept of the deck and the user's hand really matches really well with sets in Redis. It's just an array, essentially. And we were able to store really efficiently all of our information using that.
Cool. That's good. All right, great job.
One more big round of applause to all of our squirrels.
I forgot to mention, like, I get to stand up here because I got to be their cohort lead. I did not do this alone, right? I teach by myself. That's never going to happen. So, like, a big shout out to Lucas, Leon, Tori, Matt Baker, Casey, Mike, Allie, who's got a million shout outs. What?
No, I was just saying Allie.
Yeah. So, like, thanks to everyone who's put their time and effort into helping the squirrels succeed. You're all super appreciated by them. So, round of applause for everyone who did that.
So we're going to take a 5-ish minute break and try and be back here at 10:30. And any and all of you are welcome to stay. We're going to do an employer introduction, and then there's going to be some networking for the students. So family, don't feel like you have to stay. You're welcome to, if you'd like. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so bathrooms are out in the hallway. The code to the ladies' bathroom is 513. 513, yeah. And then there isn't a code on the men's bathroom. It looks like there is. You don't need it. So feel free, take a break, grab some water, use the restrooms, and then we'll meet back here in 5. Thanks, guys. Thank you.